Hello, everyone. Today, I'm glad to have Stephane Jory, who is consultant for AgriTechnic, which is a French consultant company for pest management in greenhouses, especially vegetable greenhouses. But he will explain a little bit more about his background and what he's doing. So, hello, Stephane. How are you doing?
Sebastian, I'm fine, thank you.
It's kind of
thank
weird,
you a lot.
like two French people speaking in English just for an interview.
Exactly, it's something fun. I really want to thank you for this invitation. I'm really proud to be one of the person you're interviewing for your newsletter. So, as you mentioned, I'm at the moment independent consultant on a technical point of view for crop protection as its whole, but with a clear focus on IPM and the alternative to chemical management. I'm now working in this industry for 22 years. I went to agriculture because of IPM. It's something I discovered during my studies, and I really fall in love with the concept, and I decided to reorganize to IPM. So I've been working as an R&D assistant for a couple of years, and then went to sales. And I've spent over 10 years as a supplier, technical and sales representative for Bioline, which is settled also in North America. So today we decided to discuss a bit about a strategy of using bugs, and I will have a more focused point on the management of whiteflies on tomato in greenhouses.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so yeah, that would be great to see how what are the different steps when you implement an IPM strategy. So yeah, go ahead. Tell us a little bit how you take the problem and how you solve it.
Okay, this is general, but for the IPM strategy, you really need to anticipate, because using beneficial insects is quite a weak way of dealing with pests compared to what chemicals used to be. And we in Europe have a lot of withdrawal of chemicals, so it's not that strong at the moment, but it used to be. So you need to anticipate, you need to know your crop, you need to know the pests that will be linked to your crop during the whole crop cycle. You also need to know about the biology of the pests you are fighting against, because depending on the part of the year, it won't be the same pressure. So having an idea of the expected pressure is very important, and then you can manage to make a good strategy which will be linked to your pressure at the moment you're cropping the tomatoes or whatever you're cropping.
Yeah, so like, yeah, knowing what are the different crops on the different period of the year, and maybe also the stages of the crops. Maybe regarding the stages, you don't have the same pressure or the same pest.
Exactly. You really need to anticipate and to be prepared on what kind of pests at what time of the crop you will face. So a IPM strategy to me starts with prophylaxis, and prophylaxis is how not to be responsible of the problem you will be facing, and that is really important, and it's the first part of the organization of a good program of managing pests. It's about organizing work. If you have a different block of greenhouses, always try to work in the cleanest one and then go to the ones that are already experiencing pest pressure. You have all the physical methods. which are mainly sticky traps, but the greenhouse itself is a physical method to prevent the entry of the pests. Then you can also have a choice on the genetics you are growing, because on the same crop, your variety, you can have different level of resistances, mainly to disease and viruses, but resistance to virus is really important because the threshold you will accept of your pests, which are the transmitting the virus, is different if your crop is sensitive to a virus or if it's resistant to that virus. And then the third pillar is the biological control itself. So here we are, the good strategy, introducing the right bug at the right time to face the expected pressure. You must know that 80% to me of the of your victory against pests is anticipation. So release first beneficials before first pest appears.
Yeah, and maybe constant release of BCA. Like some people, they are just looking at their numbers for the week and they are making decision for the coming week. Like it's good when you hit your threshold and when you see that you're losing control, but it's not the way to reduce you by your beneficial release for the next week, because if you reduce it, then in 3-4 weeks you will lose the control again. Like having a consistent release and never stop completely.
Yeah, that also depends on the type of beneficial you are using. When we are discussing about predatory bugs, you sometimes have only 1 or 2 releases at the start of the crop. But if you use mainly predatory mites, of course, it will be better to have a frequent release and a defined rate, depending on the pressure and on the balance on the pest you can see in your crop. And then really scouting is key, and I know you're convinced of that because of the company you have now made. But it's really something I will say, because if you don't scout, you don't know what's happening in your crop, and if you don't know, you can only make bad decisions. So scouting is key.
Yeah.
And having the experience of what is the good balance in between pests and beneficials is then key to analyze the scouting you've made.
Yeah, and also the scouting is not only the traps and the sticky cards, it's also the plant inspection, because like
Exactly.
it's also important to, because not all the pests are getting trapped on the sticky cards, and if you miss those, then you lose control on those pests too.
Yeah, sticky trap is a tool, and crop inspection, the hands in the leaves, is the real key of scouting. Yeah.
Yes, but another thing is you need to get used to what you're looking for, because sometimes like you know that you will look underneath this leaf because you see something weird or something different, because you got the experience of knowing what a healthy plant is and everything, and you won't look underneath the leaf if you don't suspect something. And it's all like, that's why experience is important too when you're scouting.
Yeah, it's really important, and a pest at the beginning doesn't make any damage. So if you want to see them first, you need to have a randomized plan of scouting, maybe having 1 or 0.5% of your plants being scouted every week, and that is really important. And having that done, it also make an history of your crop, and it's something you can also include in your strategy for the year after. And you know, a balance is not we are live, living plants, living pests, living beneficials, so the story is not exactly the same 1 year and the year after.
Yes, it's like collecting data to get like documented experience. And then when you got that, and you know your plants, you know your crops, because you have all those scouts recorded and collected data about it, then you make the best decision.
Exactly, exactly. So we were planning to have a specific example of crop protection and the strategy against it. I wanted to discuss about the white flies in tomato. Tomato is a global crop, so I think that everyone receiving your newsletter have ever grown some tomatoes. And white flies, whatever the species is, you have it all around the world too. My strategy for a new tomato crop is that you must be clean inside the greenhouse before planting any plant. That includes removal of the weeds, trapping. Some pests can overwinter inside the glass house, some even without any weeds in the glass house. So you can use either sticky traps, which are a good tool for that. And I know that some people have started trying some trap plants, because pests have the ability to fill the plants in the glass house, and putting maybe only 10 plants in an acre can attract the pests, and then you have just to remove the plants with the pests. That is the first step before starting your full strategy. Second point, which is very important, is to check your young plants when they arrive at your facility, because you most of the time rely on a young plant raiser, and this young plant raiser is also experiencing pest problems. And sometimes he not only send you plants, he also send you pests with. So it's very important to have a check of about 1% of the incoming plants, to have a good overview of what is on the plants or what is not on the plants. And depending on this assessment, you can really change your strategy before even it has started.
Yeah, and there are also some strategy, including like dipping the cuttings or the plants in solutions with nematodes, or there are and also one thing that's really important is you usually want to start very early, but you never know what kind of chemical have been applied to those plants you're receiving. So it's always difficult, because sometimes your beneficial are not surviving because of the chemicals in the plant tissues.
Exactly, and it's something before releasing the pests globally on your crops. I always advise to have some test plants, which you can put a netting on, and then you release bugs on plants you have focus, and you put the netting, and then go back the week after, see what has happened. Are the beneficials still alive? If not, postpone your release. If yes, you can start globally to introduce the beneficial on your crop. And it's something that must be done. We were discussing of different type of beneficial, and in tomato against whiteflies, we mostly rely on the mirid bugs. And those mirid bugs, you introduce them 1 or 2 times for your entire crop cycle. So you must be sure that you introduce them in good conditions and they won't die because of a chemical residue.
Yeah, I really like the idea of having your own kind of research center, like doing your own experimentation to know more about the plants you're receiving. That's really that's a really good tip for the growers. Like doing that, it might avoid big issues later.
Exactly. Then and it's something we can see for many different pests. I really love to use either predators and parasites of the pests, because they are not additional fee for your plan of protection. It's really something that goes with very well, because the predator you introduce will be very efficient on high density of pests, even if they are also efficient on lower densities. But the idea of using parasites is to reduce the speed of development of your pests, which will allow the predator to go on the same speed than the pest. Usually the pests always go faster than your predators. So here we use Macrolophus pygmaeus as the merit bug, but I know that it is not available in North America, where you can have Dicephus. There are really close behavior of beneficials. So what I will say about Macrolophus is can be the same for the Dicephus. And I always mix my releases of the bugs with some Encarsia or Eretmoceris, which are the larvae parasites of the white flies, depending on the species of white fly you're facing. What is key is that the mirid, you cannot broadcast your first release because they need to mate. So the idea is to release on spots. You can make something like 60 spots per acre. That will help also to follow the first larvae when they will hatch. If you broadcast your release, it will be too much diluted in the crops to have a clear view of the numbers that are hatching, and if those numbers are good, or if not, you need to release a complement of your predatory bugs. So that also means that in between the spots, your crop is not protected. So the use of the parasites is very important to have a good management of the whitefly overall your crop.
Okay.
The last point about that, yeah.
Go ahead. Like I was just thinking. So for the Dicephus, for example, you need to use banker plants to release them and to breed them so that they like they breed and you increase your population of Dicephus to protect your plants.
Okay, but banker plants is a good idea. It's more or less used. Not everybody used the bunker plant system, but it's something you can also have, because if you need to treat, you can remove your bunker plants from the crop, then treat and replace them afterwards. It's something that could be very interesting, but most of the growers here in France do not rely on bunker plants. They really release on the tomato directly. If the crop is really clean, and even to stimulate the egg laying of the females, we add some food, which is a Festia eggs. They are caterpillars eggs, which will not hatch any caterpillar, but that is a food source for the merit bugs, and it stimulates the egg laying of the female. So it's something very important, providing food and providing protein for the females to know that their next generation will be fed too.
Okay.
A thing I wanted to say is that the life cycle of the merit bug is quite long. It could be up to 6-8 weeks. So here again, to complement with some parasites is key to let the bugs settle well, and you can expect needing 2 full generations to have a good covering of your crops, and then a good capacity to fight against the whiteflies.
Okay, yeah. So that's a complete system, and yeah, you need to have both the parasites and the predatory mites together, and like do you release like the predatory mite before or after the parasitoids, or after?
Could be released at the same time, but the parasitoids, you need to release them on a weekly basis. That is very important, because their life is about a 10 days. So you need really to have a frequent releases on a weekly basis for at least the 2 full generation of the myriad bugs, to be sure. Then you also have an assessment of the parasitism after 4-6 weeks. And depending on the parasitism you can see in the crop, you can decide either to continue or to stop, knowing that the ideal parasitism of whiteflies is in between 80 to 90%.
Okay, yeah. Like, so you look at your pest and you see if they have been parasitized, and you're calculating the percentage, and then you lead your IPM program according to that.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's good. I don't know if you have more to say about the tomato IPM program, or?
No, I think that it's against whitefly. It is a good system. It is something that has been proven to be very efficient. We are now in France are finishing the crop cycle and just cutting the heads at the moment. We have had a huge whitefly pressure this year, and excepting some spots, we really had the pleasure to manage those whitefly well with that strategy. So here again, I think it's a proven strategy to work.
So if you have to summarize the, like you already talked about the key steps in IPM implementation, but can you just summarize very quick the like 3 to 5 key steps that the growers they don't want to miss to make sure that they will be successful?
I think, and it's not, I will maybe have a copyright to pay on that, but the key is to start clean and stay clean the longer you can. Avoiding chemicals is key, but if you really need it, you need to apply, then scout again, have a good overview of what the impact was and for how long it will be, and then release beneficials to compensate the loss due to the treatments. That is also key. Scouting to me is really key. If you don't know what is the situation on the crop, you cannot make the good decision. And then it's something that, because you are at the end of the crop, you sometimes miss the good clean up of the crops before its removal, but that is also a key point to avoid the pests escaping from this crop and go to the neighboring one. Having a strong, tough chemical treatment at the end of the crop is also important to get rid of that pest and not letting them go on the neighboring crop.
Yeah, that's so. Thank you very much, Stephane. If somebody wants to reach you, is there a way to contact you? Like if they want to speak in French, maybe?
Yeah, English is not a problem to me. They can send me an email, which is stephane@agritechnic.fr. Or they can go to you, and then you have all my contact details, so you can.
Or maybe your LinkedIn profile also.
My LinkedIn profile, yes, it's up to date also. Sure.
Yes, and I know you're using the messaging system of LinkedIn too, because you were using it sometime together. So that's maybe a good way to contact you. So thank you very much, Stephane, and thank you for all the good information and the valuable information you gave today. And yeah, have a good afternoon.
Many thanks. You too. Goodbye.